Hi, it's Terrie from TLC, and I'm doing a continuation of tips and tricks and tools and things for people to use at home with grooming their own dog. So we just did a video about getting the dog up off a flat, raised, level, sturdy surface, non-skid mat. We did that video. So now we're going to talk about some tools to help you in grooming your dog at home. And I just will say that pretty much the only brush that I use is a slicker brush on all dogs, regardless of what breed they are. That's my go-to. But no two slicker brushes are made the same. Okay, so you want one that's got some bite and some grab to it, so that it doesn't go bounce, bounce, bounce and skip over the knots, tangles, and mats. The one that I use a lot is the Miracle Coat Slicker Brush. I get it at Wren's here in Canada. You can probably get it at Pat Edge. You can probably get it at Amazon. And then my other favorite go-to brush is my Christenson brush. Now, this is an expensive professional brush. I think it's a $75 brush. This is like $15, okay? So that's the difference. These tines are longer and they're a little bit gentler. This is an aggressive brush, but it's a very useful brush, and it's one of my go-to brushes. The next thing that you cannot forget next to your slicker brush is your metal comb, okay? And it's got the wider teeth at this end and then the narrower teeth. I never use these. I just use this end of the comb. You don't want a comb that's got the handle on it, the wooden handle. Never mind. You don't hold it properly to get and pick up all the mats, tangles, and knots. So you want a comb like this. There's this one here. This is like a $45 Greyhound comb. But this one is another Greyhound comb that was $18. And it works just as well. Okay, so those are the tools. You're up on the flat surface. I've got Archie bathed and blown out. I don't have him completely fluff dried, but he does have some knots and tangles. So I'm gonna go real quick on how to do some brushing and combing at home, okay? So I've got this side brushed out, so I should probably show that. And that, see how my comb slides through, except for right there, there's a mat. And you're gonna see him, he's fussy about certain things. But this is real life, right? So he's got a mat right there. And in order for me to give the haircut that the owner wants, I have to have this coat be like butter. This coat can't snag on anything, right? So when your comb, that's why it's so important. So when your comb snags, stop. And one of the other questions we had was dogs that are acting and being silly on the table, and how do you deal with that in training? That's another video. But I wanted to show Archie because he's tall and he's white, and things will show up better on video, okay? So see how my comb goes through nice? Okay. I know that I'm finished on this side because I don't have any snags. This side I haven't touched. So I'm going to turn him, if you'll let me. I should have did it the other way around because he's going to always want to go this way. Okay, so start at the back foot, if you like. I sit to groom. This is just easier on my body. And it's worth mentioning that it's pretty rare for a dog to stand still like a statue on a table. You have to support them. So right now I'm holding here and my elbow's grinding into this lovely mat that I bought, and he's pushing against me, or he's pushing that way to get away, actually. So we make it look easy with what we do, but they don't stand still and they're not perfect ladies and gentlemen on the table. So can you hear that? Okay, that sound is this brush hitting the knots and tangles that are in this leg that don't look like they're there, but they are, okay? So I'm holding him here, being gentle. And see how I hold my brush? I don't hold it in my hand like that. Hold it like a paintbrush. I hold it many different ways for different parts of the body, but here, I'm holding it like this. I'm gonna do, if I do the back of the hawk, I'm gonna lift it, my elbows into the table, still like a paintbrush in my hand, and I'm brushing backwards because you wanna brush from the skin out. okay? In here, in your toes, you want to really pay attention because they get matted in there quickly. So just be gentle with it, but yet get the job done. You don't want to think that you're done. Take your metal comb and hit that knot that's in there and pull, because then you can work at it like that. See, that's the only size of the knot that was in there, just a little tiny thing. But if you go yanking and pulling on that, it hurts, and then you damage the trust that you have with your dog, so you don't want to do that. Sometimes I brush down, but for the most part, I'm going against the grain on a lot of things. So now I'm up in here pushing that flank area out with my holding hand. You gotta go all sides, right? This side, the bottom side, the back side, the top side, and the inside, right? There's a lot to it. Okay? Be very careful in here, because this is a sensitive area. Then you've got to follow up with your comb. Don't forget this part. Don't think that it's okay, because I've brushed this out, I don't know how many times now, just in this video, and there's knots in there, and I've got to get them out, because if I don't get them out, they'll just get bigger and bigger, and then it won't take long, especially in snow and ice, or snow and wet, not snow and ice, but the snow and the wet. They'll get big and tight pretty quickly. See, normally I would move myself to in front of the dog, because you're always in front of everything that you're working on, but if I do, then I'm gonna block the camera, okay? So I would normally be in this area, because you're always standing and looking at what you're working on, okay? So for the body, I'm gonna hold. He wants to lie down. I'm gonna let him lie down, and that's another piece that's important, because you don't want to get into this struggle with him. Archie is a young dog. He's just a year, and we've done a lot of work with him. He can get growly, he can get a little bit nippy with me, and then he can be just perfectly fine. So it's just something that we work through. So I hold the skin with my holding hand, not hurting them. They always want to drop their heads or put their head into you. It's a kind of a sign that they're not wanting you to do what you're doing. But I don't want to go like this, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to make the skin pull. So I hold it with my free hand, regardless of which way I go, to give it some tension, so he doesn't feel like he's being pulled and yanked on aggressively, okay? This area here, it's a bit hard to do a dog when they're lying down on the table, but I'm going to give it to him because he's been sitting for a bit, right? It's a give and take kind of thing. I want to move him a little bit so that you guys can see. Okay, in here, doesn't look like there's any knots or tangles at all in this coat. There's some. This owner has a lot of work ahead of her to keep this coat mat free, knots and tangle free, and we do a lot of work together to try and make sure that she achieves it. So see how the comb's going through, but there's a snag here, see it? I'm gonna go back with my brush. I can't even feel it with my hand, let alone see it. But that's the lie detector. It tells you the lies that you tell yourself of how good of a job and thorough of a job that you've done, and how well you're using your tools. It tells you all those little lies that you're telling yourself, okay? Okay, so we got that done. I'm gonna have to get him to get up. He does not like his front brushed at all. Backwards here a little bit. See, he's pushing this way. My hand here is holding him. I'm making it look like nothing's happening and everything's just fine, but just so you know, when you get doing this at home, that they do stuff, then you have to support them with your holding arm, right? Because you never take your hand off a dog that's on a raised flat surface. Walk away from them or take your hand off of them. Okay? So I'm gonna walk in front of the camera so that I can get this done. So here's the front, holding hand, and I go from the toes up. Okay? He's gonna turn and move around. He hates having his front legs brushed and combed. Most dogs do, but I don't want him to go that way. I want him to stay this way. And this is when you can get into a bit of a battle with the dog, but you gotta try and remember your training and don't get impatient. Tell him he's a good boy when he's a good boy. When he's being a knucklehead, say, hey, you're being a knucklehead. I don't use treats when I'm working with a new puppy. You know, I changed hands. You've got to be ambidextrous when you're a groomer. You don't have to be, but it certainly helps. Okay? See how I keep changing my grip for the different areas on the dog's leg arch? It's better if he looks this way than if he looks that way. It's better for me. I get a better job done. Don't forget your toes, because the toes get really matted quite easily. Quite often I take my thinning shears in there and I thin out a lot of the bulk in between the toes so that the dog owner doesn't have that problem. So there's a knot, my comb telling me the little lies that I'm telling myself. There's another knot. I don't want to pull on that, so if I pull on that, it's going to make them upset. So there it is. Just, it's not very big. So it's like a flicking action, you see? It sounds worse than what it really is. But if I let go of this foot, I'm not hanging onto it aggressively, but I do have my hands, fingers, and palm wrapped around it. He'll just go the other way, right? He'll pull his foot away from me, like he just did, see? Okay? People are always quite worried about scraping the skin and giving them brush burn, and you will do that if you go at it really hard and aggressively, but you just pay attention to what you're doing. Does that concern you when he growls at me like that? I just ignore it. I don't like it, but he's not gonna bite me. He's just telling me that he doesn't care for it, and that's okay. But I'm also very wary of the timing. If I'm gonna let go of him, I'm not gonna let go of him. Like if I'm doing something that he doesn't like and he's telling me, I'm not gonna quite let go because he's trying to boss me around and bully me around, and dogs will do that. So you gotta pay attention to your timing. No, see, I'm not gonna let go through that. But I'm not gonna freak out. He's just telling me there's a knot there. Be careful. So I'm gonna take my thinning shears and give it a couple of thins. Go at it gently with my brush. Good boy. Good boy, aren't I? No. He doesn't want to be mean. He's not aggressive. It's just that little tiny knot that's about the size of the head of a Q-tip. These hurt in between the toes. Hey, you're all right. Right? You're all right. Yep. No. So I'm not going to let go of his foot. I want to let go of his foot to reward him, but I'm not going to do it because he's being goofy. Good job. So now I'm going to let go of his foot because he wasn't doing anything he shouldn't be, right? Or that I don't want. Okay. I guess since it's here, I'll do it real quick. Keep this cleaned out of there. Pay attention to that. Tails, you hold in your hand like a ponytail, right? You just brush out a tail as if it was your child's ponytail. It's got some knots in here. They get matted up here at the base. So I'm gonna go in. Dogs typically don't like it when you're touching and playing with their tail. So don't be surprised if you get some static from your dog on that. Like usually they're pulling to go the opposite way away from you. They're doing everything and anything that they can think of to get away from you, touching and handling their tail. They don't like it. So you want to be gentle with it. And if it's got knots, that makes it even more challenging. All the more reason why if you want a long coat on your dog, regardless of the breed, you want to keep them up in between your professional grooming visits, because the less uncomfortable they are to have this stuff dealt with that most owners don't even know is there, the better. Okay? There, got that knot. But I'm holding on with my holding hand. I'm holding the tension so that he doesn't feel like, right? He's not feeling that because I'm grabbing it and pinching it with my holding hand. So that he doesn't feel discomfort. That's the intention. Sometimes we're successful with it, sometimes we screw it up. Here we go, okay? So now the comb slides through. Doesn't get snagged and knot on anything, right? So we know we're done. Okay? So I'll stop there and we'll do the head in another video. Okay?